There's no such thing as a small disaster. So when you call 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota, we come prepared to restore your life back to normal. From burst pipes to unexpected mold discoveries or fire damage, when things couldn't be worse, we come to you with our best. With empathy, local expertise, and a truck full of seriously powerful equipment. 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota. Restoring what matters most. 701-670-2022.
Hello and welcome to this Valley News Now weather update brought to you by 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota. I'm Meteorologist Lisa Green here with a look at what we can expect in the coming days. We're going to take a look at your 11-day planner, but I also wanted to look beyond that. And we just got an update from the Climate Prediction Center on El Nino and La Nina. The ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillation is what ENSO stands for. And it's that circulation, that fluctuation between La Nina seasons and El Nino seasons that has a pretty decent impact on our weather here in the northern part of the country, north central part of the country, which, believe it or not, is definitely something that we notice in the winter time too. So we're checking out how things are looking right now as far as La Nina is concerned. We've been in the La Nina for a little bit now, and what we can expect it to do in the coming days and how that might have some impacts on us. So let's get into this La Nina update here. So as of this latest update, La Nina is hanging on. We remain in a La Nina advisory. That continues for us. And looking at things getting ready to change, I'm just going to make some adjustments to my levels here. It looks a little loud. Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better here. But we're going to be seeing things change over the course of the next few months here. So what is being predicted right now is that there's a 75% chance of a transition to ENSO. Again, El Nino Southern Oscillation is the name of this circulation. Neutral conditions during the January to March period here. So we're in it right now. So during this time, we may see this transition. And ENSO neutral is likely to hang around at least through late spring. So that's some things to keep in mind as we're talking about where we've been and where we're headed here in the forecast. So that's the latest. Here's a look at, again, we go over this every time. I want to make sure everybody understands how El Nino and La Nina work. So we have to actually go all the way to the equatorial Pacific Ocean and take a look at sea surface temperatures. So how this works is, so normally trade winds, they blow from east to west. So it's a little different from our westerlies that we see in our temperate climates here in the northern hemisphere and also in the southern hemisphere. But we see west to east winds. Generally, the overall pattern near the equator, rather, is trade winds blowing from east to west. And so normally what they do is they're pushing warm water at the surface toward Asia. So, you know, on a normal season that we're experiencing. In some years, those winds are a little bit stronger. And so they're pushing more of that warmer water at the surface to the west, toward Asia. And that actually allows the colder water underneath to rise. And so we get cooler water pooling in the eastern Pacific. And what happens here, this influences the weather over it when we've got cooler water surfaces. That weather that develops over that part of the globe sets up a pattern that influences us here in the northern hemisphere. So let's take a look. So the pattern that sets up when we have cooler temperatures at the surface in the eastern Pacific is during the winter time, and it's a lot of times during the winter that we see some of our greatest impacts here in the upper Midwest, in the northern plains. And so the typical pattern that sets up is you get this northwesterly flow, and you get colder air rolling in, and our storm track comes in from this direction. And what have we been seeing really this winter leading up until this point where we've had some warmer air? We've been seeing those Alberta clippers, that northwesterly flow, those systems coming at us from that direction. We haven't had much for Colorado lows this season. And so with that pattern, we tend to run a little cooler on average. It doesn't necessarily, just because we're in what's called a La Nina, when those sea surface temperatures in the eastern Pacific are colder than average, where we have those anomalies. And we'll talk about that in just a second. that tends to influence our weather in this way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a guarantee every time that sets up. So it's something that we watch to see how it develops. And we have been seeing some cooler than average temperatures in the last 30 days overall. And in addition to that, we have had, several blizzards, wind and snow driving in at us from the northwest in recent days as well. Now, I should say, over the course of the winter so far. In the last few days, things have quieted down. We've warmed up quite a bit. So we're seeing a bit of a break from this pattern here. And so that's how things look for us. We see typically cooler than average temperatures overall. Doesn't mean we don't have warm-ups within the season. And then also not as strong a signal, but more systems coming in from that direction. So it can lead to some more snowfall in the winter time, but doesn't necessarily guarantee it. The signal is stronger for that temperature difference. So when we're in a La Nina, we oftentimes expect to see our overall average for the season, our average temperatures to be cooler. Okay, so this graph is a little bit interesting here, and it might be hard to read. So I'm going to pull this up full screen and talk about it here for you, and talk about what we're looking at. So this is what's called a model plot here, where we're looking at anomalies, temperature anomalies. And so this black line is what's happened, the daily analysis of temperature anomalies. And what temperature are we talking about? It's a region, it's called Niña 3.4, and all you need to know about that is a region in the eastern half of the Pacific Ocean where SST means sea surface temperatures are measured, and that can give us a good idea of how it's going to influence our weather. And also this is the measured area where we make those comparisons, those temperature anomaly comparisons. And so in this region, temperatures, sea surface temperatures have been running since, this goes all the way back. So this is current time. Sorry guys, this is the latest update that's come in. So yes, we're well into February, but this is the latest data that we have. So up until that January time frame. And then these letters here, these are what are called seasons from climatologists. They're 3-month periods, and each one is a season. So NDJ is November, December, January. And ASO, August, September, October. And then MJJ, May, June, July. So you get the picture there. And that goes all the way back to last January, February, March, so a year ago. You can see we've been running, here's zero, the zero line. So an anomaly means, the number or measurement off of what is considered average here, or in this case, we'll say. And so looking at the temperature anomaly of the sea surface in this region of the Pacific, we've been running about 0.5 degree Celsius to close to 1 degree Celsius below average. And in order for us to be considered in what is a La Nina, we have to be reaching this 0.5 degree below average or lower. And we were there, we kind of worked our way out of it a little bit heading into the summer months, again, MJJ, May, June, July, but then we saw that kind of double down of La Nina into the fall, and then we've just been in La Nina close to 1 degree below in the winter months. And the greater the anomaly, so the lower on the chart or the higher on the chart if we're above average, the stronger the La Nina or El Nino are considered to be. So we've been at 1 degree. So explain that. Now, we are looking at models here. All these, we call them spaghetti plots, all these strings that are showing here, that's a different model putting out a different output based on the way that model's set up, based on the parameters that are in that algorithm and the numbers that get placed into the model. And you can see they differentiate quite a bit as we head further into late summer and fall this year, but they're pretty close in line over the next several months. So again, February, March, April, May, they're all kind of bunched together pretty closely, which gives us confidence that these models are generally predicting that anomaly, that temperature anomaly, to go up and return to zero or neutral conditions. So it's looking pretty likely that is going to happen. Now there are some lines that stay slightly below neutral, but again, we just really need to get above that 0.5 degree mark to be considered in neutral. And then not only that, but our models are also indicating that we may climb above that. And if we reach that 0.5 degree Celsius or more, we are looking at the numbers being above or into 0.5 degree here. We're looking at numbers being into the El Nino range, and that's a possibility. Some models are sending us way up there. I don't know if we'll go that high, but sending us above and then some below. So we are looking at some interesting numbers here that we're keeping an eye on as we are working our way into the year this year. But the bottom line is the model plots are showing that rise in temperature at the sea surface in eastern parts of the Pacific, and that would mean working our way out of La Nina and working our way potentially after that into El Nino conditions. And so here's another look at that, kind of a different view, more of a bar graph. And again, we're looking at those 3-month periods for seasons. You can see we're looking at La Nina in blue. Here's our little chart to let you know, our little legend. La Nina blue, neutral gray, El Nino probabilities in that orangish red color. So we're looking at January, February, March, still in that really well likely into that La Nina phase. But as we are moving into months into the springtime, transitioning to that neutral phase over time until we're in spring. This is April, May, June, where we're neutral, and then you can see that potential for El Nino to rise with greater probabilities of being in an El Nino and heading into the fall months, and this fall months meaning September, October, November in this particular season, and even ahead of that as well. So we'll see if that pans out, but if we do work our way out of La Nina and into El Nino, that could mean some things for influence on our weather. Again, our climate, it really shows a difference when it comes to winter months from the impacts and the influence of ENSO. And we just went over La Nina in the wintertime. We tend to run a little bit colder. And then if we have El Nino, during El Nino seasons, winter seasons, we can generally tend to run above average. So, you know, we're still in this winter, but just kind of thinking ahead to next winter. Wouldn't that be nice to not be super duper frigid? Of course, I know we like to have snow around here. We've got a lot of winter lovers. We'll still have winter if that pans out. It just may not be as cold as other winters. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how this develops and evolves over time. But moving into a more neutral pattern, which we may see here heading into spring, means that El Nino, La Nina's influence over our weather is less, and other climate circulations enter the chat to influence our weather. So that makes it a little more complicated to look out long term. So let's talk about how things are looking here heading into the coming days. So this is our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. We'll take this full screen again. You can see that this is for the period of February 17th through the 21st. So this is from 6 days from now through 10 days from now. So looking into next week, especially that start of next week. And you can see a Climate Prediction Center showing us that we're likely, again, this isn't a forecast, it's an outlook. So it's about probabilities. We're likely going to be running above average, especially down toward more places, down into the lower Great Lakes, other parts of the Midwest, upper Midwest, certainly looking above average as well, but the likelihood is even greater the farther south. Hopefully that made sense. So yeah, looking above average, and we know that. We've been talking about that in the forecast, that it's very mild. Now, let's look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. So this is just shifted ahead a few days. So we're talking February 19th through the 25th. And so that's getting into 7 days from now. This was put out yesterday. That's why it says 8 to 14 day. A new one will come out, but it hasn't yet today. So we're looking at about a week out, and then beyond that following week, starting off into, let's see, what day is February 19th? Thursday. Okay, Thursday of next week, and then a week out. And then as we look ahead beyond there into that last week of of February, how are things looking? Well, we've got that big dome of warm air, that likely above average in orange here, in much of the eastern and southeastern 2/3 of the country. However, you can see there are signs that things are changing in the forecast for us here in the valley. We start to see that leaning below average color, the blue color, starting to creep into Montana and North Dakota, and the leaning above average starting to depart and to still in the Midwest, but here we're starting to see some changes. And we are looking at what could be a cool down coming up for that last week of February. So the latest 3-month outlook is still for, this should actually say February, March, April. So sorry about that, guys. But so we'll scratch that out here just so there's no confusion. So looking at February, March, April being that kind of time frame of here we go, thank you. Okay, so looking at conditions that are going to be on the colder than average side. So I think I'm confusing myself here, so I'm just going to look something up here really quick. But in general, our forecast for the next few months has been running slightly below average. So our 3-month outlook that came out on January 15th is for February, March, and April. Okay, so sorry I haven't adjusted that. But it is the colors on the map. Pay attention to those because that is what the forecast or the outlook has been rather. So slightly below average here heading into the later part of winter season. We will get another update in the next few days on this, and so I think it's going to be a more clear picture, but in general it's been running below average. As we're halfway through February, we'll get a new update there coming up. So that graphic, not the best here because I used some old data in there, or old language, new current data. Okay, so bottom line is that we're looking mild. We are looking at a stretch here from today through this weekend, heading into the start of next week, even that first half of next week, maybe first couple of days, still staying very mild, running way above average. But then the pattern shifts, and then we've been talking about that possibility for more active weather, but also with that cooler than average weather heading into, or at least average to cooler than average, heading into that last week of February. So that's what we're looking out for right now as we're still in La Niña and still running a little bit below average overall. Again, when we talk about averages, there can be warm-ups and big cool-downs in the middle of them, and then it all averages out in the end. And we saw that last month in January. We were so warm in the start of the month, and then we were so cold at the end of the month that it all kind of leveled out. I think we ended the month about a degree below average in January, even though we were so warm to start things out. And I'm going to look that up for you here because I want to make sure I'm telling you the right stuff here. But again, it's looking more active next week. We have raised a first alert weather day for Wednesday specifically, but that doesn't mean it's limited to Wednesday. We have a pattern that's shifting and more active weather, and the possibility is there that we could see several systems that move through here in the forecast as we head into Wednesday, Tuesday even, starting up on Tuesday, and head into Wednesday of next week is when it starts up, but more active weather could continue from there. Okay, yes, I was correct here. Our average temperature departure from normal in January was 0.9 degrees below normal. So it was about a degree below normal. That's how the month ended. So again, it just goes to show that averages can help tell the story, but there may be extremes within those averages. So again, back to that first alert weather day, we're looking out for a potent winter system possible here. This one may come in from a direction we haven't seen much of yet, which could be from the west or the southwest. And, you know, if it comes in from the southwest, we typically call these kind of systems Colorado lows because that's where they appear to originate from. A lot of them do. Just like Alberta clippers, they appear to originate to the northwest of us around Alberta and then come our way from the northwest. Same thing, same situation and nomenclature for Colorado low. So that's a possibility. We're looking at starting Tuesday, some wind increasing, some rain increasing Tuesday night, and then switching over to snow heading into Wednesday. So that would be more impactful on our weather this coming Wednesday. And timing, track, amounts probably will change quite a bit from what we've been seeing. And that's why we're not necessarily getting into a lot of detail on forecast models and that sort of thing just yet. We are looking at the possibility for some snow, some wind, and we, have had a nice break. And it feels like maybe spring is just around the corner, and it is in general, but it's not happening now. This is a break from wintry weather right now. We're getting melting going on, but there is more winter to come. So we just want to give you that first alert and prepare you for that possibility. So let's talk about our extended planner. We're looking at today, of course, Giving Hearts Day is nice and mild. Temperatures getting into the upper 30s. Friday, Saturday for Valentine's Day. We are going to be nice and mild as well. Could have some, again, more patchy fog in the mornings with our milder air in place. And then moving on into Sunday, keeping in that 30 to 40 degree range, some low 40s through President's Day. So if you're off on President's Day and you've got a nice 3-day weekend ahead, beautiful weather for that. Great timing here. Unless you were going to go do some winter activities, that might be kind of tough because of the melting we're seeing in our snowpack. And then heading into Tuesday, Mardi Gras, celebrating before Lent starts. And we are looking at Tuesday being that change. I mentioned that system that's going to affect us on Wednesday with the potential for snow, but it may start on Tuesday with some wind and some rain and then mix over to snow heading into Wednesday. If our longer range models continue to indicate that, we'll continue to keep it for Wednesday. But there's a possibility, again, we could add more first alert weather days as we get closer and the picture becomes more clear on what we may see coming up here. There are some models hinting at another system heading into the weekend. That one might be a little farther south. Right now it looks like it's tracking a little farther south, but that could all change. It's pretty far out. It's in our 9, 10, 11 days of our 11-day planner. But you can see the temperature trend that we've got coming our way. We're going to see temperatures trending downward. Average high for today's date is 22. So we're going to be closer to that average high, if not a little bit lower than that. It's possible beyond Sunday and continuing on into that last few days of February that we could see some even colder temperatures from there. So again, a return to, reality. February, we know, can be one of our coldest months. It was last year. It was frigid last year. So looking at, we've had a nice break and we continue that for a while, but just kind of giving you that early heads up about what's coming next week so you can make the most out of this mild weather we've got going on right now. So that's it. So we do have, again, that update about La Niña. We are still in a La Niña advisory, meaning that its influence is still over us. It's still impacting us right now, meaning that, again, we could trend to cooler than average temperatures still. However, right now, at least for the next 8 to 14 days, we are looking at conditions that are going to be relatively mild. It's toward the end of that, maybe beyond 10 days here, as we were just seeing in our 11-day planner, that we're looking at some cool down coming our way and a return to winter time. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that. If you have any questions, let's see if we have any questions here. Just somebody, Dan, saying Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Happy to provide you that information you're talking about. But if you ever have any questions about anything we're presenting on Facebook Live, feel free to pop on in the comments and ask a question. I always try to check that before I sign off and make sure that, everybody's got a clear picture of what we're talking about, and especially with complex topics that, you don't normally hear us talk about on a regular basis, like climate, global circulations that have impacts on our weather here in the valley. So again, we're looking nice and mild. We've got nice sunshine out there. Let me show you our sun right now. It's kind of on the edge of our sky cam, but it's just nice to see that beautiful blue sky. And look at all that open ground. We really are melting a lot of that snowpack that is out there. So beautiful out there today. We're looking at conditions that are going to be on that warm side, temperatures well into the 30s, some of us even into the 40s today. And that's more likely James River Valley. That's where we've been warmest lately. And we'll just keep that rolling heading into the weekend and even to start next week before those changes occur. So more updates even today. We'll hear from our afternoon and evening crew right back here. You can always tune into our newscast to get the latest forecast updates. And of course, we're always online on valleynewslive.com, and you can check the VNN weather app for the latest forecast, the latest conditions throughout the day, and wherever you happen to be as well. So we'll sign off for now, and I'll be back again tomorrow with an update as we head into a big weekend, Valentine's Day weekend. We'll have that forecast detail for you on your holiday forecast and beyond, again, into next week coming up for tomorrow. In the meantime, enjoy the mild day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
There's no such thing as a small disaster. So when you call 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota, we come prepared to restore your life back to normal. From burst pipes to unexpected mold discoveries or fire damage, when things couldn't be worse, we come to you with our best. With empathy, local expertise, and a truck full of seriously powerful equipment. 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota. Restoring what matters most. 701-670-2022.